everybody, it's Mike Jeffers, Chicago Jazz Magazine, ChicagoJazz.com, and welcome to Talkin' Jazz live at the Chicago Jazz Festival 2019. I am honored to sit down here with Pete Magadini, incredible drummer. I actually went through one of his books when I was at North Texas. We were talking a little bit off camera about that, but he is living in Chicago now. He's lived in LA, he's lived in San Francisco. We're going to talk all about that. He's played with George Duke, he's played with Al Jarreau, he's played with, I don't know, there's like 100 people on this list that I want to talk about, but we're not going to talk all about it because we don't have tons of time. But he's playing at the Serbian Village, 3144 West Irving Park Road in Chicago on September 19th, Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Tom Muehlner, Jack Radovich, and some surprise guests. But Pete, thanks for coming down, Chicago Jazz Festival.
Pleasure.
I'm glad we could sit down for a minute. I know we talked on the phone a little bit here and there and all that stuff, but it's an honor to meet you. And before we get into your background, let's just plug this set that you're playing at the Serbian Village because, you know, I mean, that's like an intimate room. That's a very cool spot to be able to see you play and hear all the nuances in your playing. So talk a little bit about who's on the gig and what kind of music people are going to be digging.
So I did it last year. This year I changed it up. I'm having Tommy because he plays the gig there. And he's so comfortable with that piano in that room. Yeah. And I've been down there. Sometimes I go down there and sit in and play with him, and it's always happening.
Well, and that piano, by the way, for those of you who don't know, it's a Steinway.
Yeah.
At the Serbian Village. I mean,
exactly.
You would walk in there and not think that there's a Steinway there. So I mean, the sound in that room is incredible.
It's Tommy, and he plays that room so well.
Oh yeah.
And so then Jack wanted to come. He's from Chicago. I played with him in Phoenix.
Okay.
And he wanted to come here. He said, "Man, if you ever get something," I said, "Well, I got this gig coming up. You want to do it?" And he said, "Yeah, I'll do it." So I'm going to have a guest there. I'm not quite sure who I'm going to get yet, but I'm going to have somebody special. So you know, whoever shows up, I think all we're asking is a $5 donation for the band, and the food's great. The room's intimate, and we had a packed house last time, and everybody enjoyed it.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, and also the parking's real easy, too. I always like to mention that as well. You know, the parking at the Serbian Village is like right there in front. Usually it's street parking, you know, meters or whatever. But, I mean, it's super simple to get there. And it's a really cool spot. Rudy, who owns the place, is just like, you know, he's the nicest guy.
Yeah.
And so that's a great, intimate room. But the fact that you're going to be playing there, it's incredible because, I mean, let's talk a little bit about your background. I mean, you came up, did you originally come up in San Francisco? Is that where you came up, or where'd you get started?
You know, I'm one of these guys who's moved around a lot, as it turns out, but originally I was from Massachusetts. My parents moved to California when I was 5, grew up in Palm Springs, started playing drums in the school band, and then they moved to LA, and I still was playing drums in the school band, and then they moved to Phoenix, and then I was in the high school band, and then I played at ASU for 1 year, and then I went to New York.
Okay.
And that's really, I had one great teacher in Phoenix, Don Bothwell. Of course, my band director, so I was giving credit. And then I had Roy Burns, and I
Roy Burns.
studied at Adler's Music Store with Roy Burns, and I hung out at night and just listened to all the great players, and I wound up working in New York for a while. And then I came back out, and I went to the conservatory in San Francisco, and that's how I got out there.
Ah, okay, because at that time in San Francisco, that scene out there was really starting to pop,
I just walked into that. I had no idea what was going on. You know, we were talking about that. I have a student, Michael Shreve was my student. He's on the cover of Modern Drummer this month, because it was 50 years ago that he took this magnificent solo at Woodstock, with all those great chops that I taught him from the guys at New York and my teacher in Phoenix. You watch Michael play that solo, it's impeccable technique.
Man.
Yeah, impeccable technique. He does such a great job, and that technique has lasted him his whole career. He still plays with impeccable technique.
So because I want to go down the rabbit hole, because I'm a drummer, obviously, so I want to go down that rabbit hole. But before I go down that rabbit hole, when you walked into San Francisco, just talk about what that scene was like and who you were playing with and sitting in with and running into.
Well, what happened was I went to the conservatory, San Francisco Conservatory of Music, and George Duke happened to be a student there. So we hooked up, and that was the beginning of the George Duke Trio. And the whole time, most of the time that I lived in San Francisco, I played with George Duke and John Hurd. And then Al Jarreau joined the group.
He started sitting in with you guys,
He
didn't
sat in one night at the club we played at, and the owner just hired him. Didn't even ask us. Just hired him. But we didn't mind, you know.
We interviewed him for a feature interview one time, and he talks about that story, and he sat in, and everybody's eyes got real big. They're like, "Who the heck is this guy?" But you were playing drums in that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I was a drummer. And we all knew that Al was going to be something. But, you know, it didn't happen overnight for him. He went down to L. We all went to L.A. eventually.
Yeah.
Nobody was reviewing us while all that hippie stuff was going on. You know? We were playing in black clubs, you know. And,
Yeah.
George Duke, John Hurd, Al Jarreau, and myself, and we were, you know, getting mentioned at the bottom of articles where we were playing. But, yeah, so everybody went to L.A., and then Al went to L.A., and it didn't happen for him right away.
Yeah.
You know, he really scuffled for a while.
Well, George had a big name then, though, didn't he?
Yeah, but they went separate ways.
Oh, okay, all right.
And Al hooked up with this manager that just briefly. It's because I find it interesting.
Yeah.
That had him one afternoon singing "Spinning Wheel" in a silk blue shirt, doing a Harry Belafonte imitation on an afternoon TV show. I called my wife and I said, "Look at this! Look at Al! Can you believe that?" And about a year later, Al was a history, and he had made it, you know. And
Yeah.
I called him. I said, "What happened?" He said there was an A&R guy at the record company. Was it Arista, the first
Arista,
label?
I think you're right.
And
Arista.
he said it was a guy that heard him, set up an audition. 2 days later, they were in the studio, and a month later, the album came out and went platinum.
Wow.
Just like that.
Well, at that time, that used to be able to happen.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't
Yeah.
happen anymore
Yeah,
really
right.
now, but man. So
Right.
with you're playing with George Duke at that time, but you're also sitting in and you're playing with probably a lot of other people, or people are hiring you at that point probably to play on the recordings.
After I
and
left
stuff,
George,
and-
I went to the Playboy Club for a while, and I did the off-night band. We played all the rooms, and so it was good for me. I had to sight read all the shows twice a week, you know, because we were just playing one night a week for all the off nights.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And because the shows kept going, so there was 3 rooms, and we were in a different room every night.
Oh,
So
wow.
I did that, and then I moved to LA after that.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I did that because when you get to LA, you better be a good reader.
Well, especially at that time, I mean, what years are we talking about here?
70s,
70s, right? So there's a
yeah.
lot of studio work. There's a lot of heavy-duty players out there. I mean, you're getting hired for a lot of jingle work, I think. Didn't you start doing a lot
Well,
of jingles
actually,
and stuff?
I did all that in Canada. What I did is I started teaching at the drum shop, Pro Drum Shop,
Okay.
along with Joe Picaro
Yeah.
and Chuck Flores.
Oh, Chuck Flores was there too?
Yeah, just the 3
I
of
went
us.
through his book.
Yeah, Chuck is a hell of a drummer, you know, nice guy. And then there was a call one day, said Diana Ross was auditioning drummers not far from the store. I said, well, I got my stuff. I'm going to go down there and do the
So
audition.
this is like in the 70s. I mean, she
Yeah.
was hot then. She
Yeah.
was just out of the
1970.
Supremes and all that
Just
stuff,
out of the
right?
Supreme, auditioning drummers for her solo career. Can you believe that? And I go in the back of a deli. They got a room back there, like it happens in LA. You know, they rent a room in the back for people to do stuff like that. And there she is.
She's
and
sitting there.
Sitting there with the musical director, and I set up my drums, and I'm playing with 3 guys. They have no idea who they are. And we play a couple tunes, and she hires us. That group right there.
Really?
Yeah, that very group.
It's amazing.
So I come home that day, and I said to my wife, I said, well, guess what? I'm playing with Diana Ross.
Oh my God.
And that started another part of my career that was great. I was a Motown drummer, and then I was doing all that, going to Motown parties, and they were treating us. I have to say they treated us really well.
Well, you're Diana Ross's drummer now. It's not like you're playing with some
Yeah.
nobody, you know. So if you're
Yeah.
walking in there already, it's like, that's the Diana Ross's drummer, George
Yeah.
Duke's drummer, man. You know, so it's probably a different cred level.
Actually,
than-
they didn't know George yet then.
Oh, they didn't?
He wasn't that big a name yet. He was getting known through Frank Zappa's band, but
Okay.
in the commercial field, he hadn't really kind of made it yet.
That's amazing.
Funny, huh? Yeah.
Jeez.
Becomes the biggest producer, and
Yeah.
there is
Oh my
sort of,
God. Well, we should talk a little bit about the polyrhythmic book that you put out, because that's like a world famous book. And what is it? Polyrhythms for Drummers was the first one, right?
The first one was called Musician's Guide to Polyrhythms.
Okay.
And actually, the drum store had a publishing company, and they put it out. I didn't want to put it out through a drum store. I wanted to go with a big publisher, but they didn't know what I was talking about. but Bob Yeager put it out in L.A. And
how did you come up with the concept? I mean, it's just the way you were playing, and you were able to put it on paper, and that's what you were teaching?
No, actually, while I was in school, I had heard that one summer that Ali Akbar Khan was coming with his trio from India to teach at Cal for a summer at the Eastern School for the Eastern Arts.
Okay.
Society for the Eastern Arts.
Society for the Eastern Arts, okay.
And so I signed up, and the thing was that because the hippie thing was going on and the Beatles had gone to visit Ravi Shankar, the first few days at the school it was mobbed with people to get into Indian music because they associated with it. But I think that what they really liked was just the tambura sound. Everyone wanted to play that, but nobody really wanted to learn the hard part, and that's the music, So it quickly dwindled down in the tabla class to 4 of us. There was 40 of us, and there was 4. Vince Delgado, who went on to travel with Zakir Hussain.
Yep.
John Bergamo, who became head of the Cal Arts percussion department. And a guy named Richard Alpert, who became Ramdas. He was the last guy in the class, and I think that started his Indian philosophy trip, because we were with a master drummer every single day. And he let me stay over and play with on my pad, and he showed me about time ratios and how to break down time ratios and interject the polyrhythms in there. So we didn't have a system of notes to use that. They used, of course, their dialects, their syllable system. Da din din, da din din, ta ta. Well, who's going to learn that to learn some polyrhythms, So I transferred that over to notes. I took our system of notes and then layered rhythms, and I came up with a concept of how to teach us Western musicians polyrhythms. That's how the book started.
Wow. I mean, the book's, how many times has it been reproduced?
Republished?
I don't know. I mean, reissued tons. I mean, it's unbelievable. Did you even think that it would get that big? I mean, and blow up like that?
I thought it would get bigger.
Did you?
Yeah, I really did. I mean, I thought that everybody would go, "Oh, yeah, I'm just waiting for this," But what happened is a lot of drummers, some other musicians. I designed it for all musicians. But the good news is the book is still fresh. It's still new.
It's still totally relevant today.
It's still, more people are talking about polyrhythms than ever before.
Yeah.
And the book you're talking about is one that I took one and made it so it was like the Chapin book, except in polyrhythms.
Yep.
So that's the one you worked out.
Yeah, that's the one I have.
So it's mental independence and it makes you such a better musician when you do that. Mm-hmm. No matter what you play, even if you never play one of those things, just your feeling for space is so much stronger.
Yep.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's amazing. So, just jumping back in, because we're going to have Pete come down and we're going to do a feature interview with you, because we could talk for 45, 50 minutes and not even touch the scope of what we can talk about, because I want to go down all these wormholes. But I'm trying to keep it together so that we can have this up on Facebook and we can promote the gig that you have coming up. But I mean, to be able to come out and see you perform at the Serbian Village September 19th, Thursday night, 8:30 p.m. Obviously, you guys are hearing all of these stories. I mean, we're just touching the tip of the iceberg. So, after Diana Ross, how long were you with Diana Ross?
A year.
A year. And then what happened after that? You ended up the tour was over, and
she got married and started a family and broke off the gig for a while.
She wasn't traveling that much, right? After that, when she started having a family, she kind of hung around at the house for a while, right?
I didn't pay too much attention after that. I was on to Toronto. I moved to Toronto, but I wanted to do more studio work, and the guys up there were really busy in the studios. And my first wife was Canadian, and I had that option, so I took it.
It's a beautiful city too.
Yeah.
Oscar Peterson was there, right?
Oh, absolutely. I played with Dave Young, his bass player, a lot. He's on a lot of my records. I went to the U of T and did a master's degree in percussion too.
Okay.
And that was a great experience. That was terrific. The Nexus guys were there teaching, and got to work with them. It's a very advanced world music percussion ensemble, very famous now, Nexus. But then they were just starting, and there I was, the only graduate student in the school. So I had it all to myself.
You keep falling into these things, man. It's like
Yeah.
So now you're in Chicago, and what are you doing in Chicago? I mean, I know you're teaching. You got a studio in Chicago. You're teaching out of your place, right?
I'm teaching private students, and you know, anybody who has got 2 hours a day to practice is welcome to call me. If you're not serious, though, don't call me.
Right.
You know, you got to put the time in. That's for sure. But I'm easy to get along with as long as you're doing the work. You
Right.
know. The reason what happened now was on a steady gig in San Francisco. We had moved back to San Francisco, and I was, you know, it's a pretty place to live.
Yeah.
And I was playing at a restaurant 3 nights a week, and our son moved to Chicago and started working here in the finance world, and we started visiting him here, and we were going, wow, what a hip city. He really liked it.
Yeah.
And we were really liking it, and we just decided, well, do I want to end my career in a, well, what happened to him? I don't know, he was playing in a restaurant somewhere, and that's the last we heard. So here I am.
What happened to Pete? He's gone. Well, I mean, you're in town. I know you're teaching and stuff, and then you're doing these one-offs here and there, and you're saying, you know, you play whenever you feel like probably putting a gig together, right? I mean, you do whatever you want at this point.
I'm a little bit picky, you know,
Yeah.
as far as what I want to do and who I just want to say, for those who show up at the Serbian Village gig, I will be bringing out a special set of drums. Yamaha built for me in the late 80s. It's late 80s, I'm sorry, no, middle 90s as I got this set.
Mid 90s, yeah.
Yeah, it's called Yamaha, their jazz set, Maple Custom Vintage.
Oh, okay.
And it's a beautiful, it's a little jazz set, a beautiful sounding set of drums, and I'm bringing that set especially for that gig there. So it'll be my best shot, everybody. That'll be it.
Oh, that's awesome. So that's going to be September 19th, Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Serbian Village, 3144 West Irving Park Road. The best way to get a hold of the Serbian Village is 773-476-2900. Of course, petermagadini.com. And before we close this one out, you've got another real cool connection here. Mose Allison, you produced his last recording, right? Live in California. Is that what that is?
When I was in San Francisco, I forgot to mention, I also started working with Mose Allison in 1965, and he was on the fringes of
He was just about to break, right?
Well, yeah, you know, they were including him in the, we were doing concerts along with some of the more popular bands of
like
the
Jefferson Airplane and Grateful Dead and all that?
Yeah. And so I've been playing with Mose since that period, and never had their trio recorded. He uses guys in here. It was Kelly Sill and Bob Rummage.
Yep.
And in California and every place I lived, he used me. So I played with him in a lot of different places, and I finally got him to consent to do a live recording with the trio. So this is a club in Marin County, Fairfax, California, called 19 Broadway, and Mose was 73 when we recorded this.
Wow. And you produced it.
I produced it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're on it.
Yeah, and it got picked by Mother Jones as one of the top 10 record releases of 2015.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, that's great.
You just keep popping up all over the place,
well.
man. It's like 6 degrees of separation. Wait a minute.
Selling jazz records is a whole lot different than selling pop records.
Different deal, yeah. I agree. And it's even harder to sell a jazz magazine. So, you want to buy one? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
All right, so, Pete, thanks so much for stopping down here. Ladies and gentlemen, September 19th, Thursday, 8:30 p.m., Serbian Village. I'm going to make it out there. You've got to check this band out. It's going to be smoking. And all the information, petermagadini.com. We're going to have him back for a feature interview on Chicago Jazz Magazine that you'll see probably drop right after the first of the year. So be sure to check back on that. And, man, I'm so happy you made it down here. It's great to finally meet you in person.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you, man. I heard you play I watched you play on the internet a few times. You're a great player, man. Studied in North Texas.
I know. Yeah.
And been through some of my work, man. I'm impressed.
Really. I got to practice more to get through all of your work, I'll tell you that.
Well,
so hopefully we'll see you at the Serbian, and until next time, hopefully we'll see you down here at the Jazz Fest this weekend. If not, hopefully we will see you somewhere out on the scene.